All right, welcome to the Top Gun Show. Today we have a very special guest, Erik Nordquist. He's probably the most interesting guest I've ever had in 130 episodes on the Top Gun Show. He's the senior production manager of the MSX security services and data centers for TPX Communications. He's been with TPX for almost 11 years, and prior to this position, he was the network security lead in the SOC, or the Securities Operations Center, and he's been responsible for the integrity of the entire TPX network. Prior to joining TPX, he was the president of Quantum Productions for 15 years. Quantum was a successful music production company for top-tier artists such as Mariah Carey, Snoop Dogg, P. Diddy, Little Stevie, no, not really, and many, many more. His work resulted in numerous gold and multi-platinum albums. Erik holds a bachelor's degree in communication and media studies from Loyola Marymount University. Erik, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. And you forgot my biggest client of all, a special place in my heart, a group that some people will know. And as soon as I say this, oh, I absolutely know who they are. And other people are like, who the heck is that? Bone Thugs-n-Harmony. That was definitely how I made my bread and butter. I felt like I grew up with them. I tell people that I met them when I had more money than they did, and I was fresh out of college, so I was dirt poor. So that's, if you know their story at all, you know that they took a bus out here to Los Angeles to meet Eazy-E, who eventually signed them, and so they really had nothing other than the clothes on their back. And I remember one time at the studio, they were super hungry. They were waiting for Eazy-E to show up with some money and some food for them. And I said, hey guys, so I ran out to McDonald's, because that's about all I could afford at the time too, and bought them lunch that day, and they were appreciative of that. And then,
well, that's crazy. So my first question is, you led right into it. How and why did you leave that kind of career after 15 years to come to, at the time, Tell Pacific?
It was time. It was, 10, 15 years doesn't seem a lot, but in the music business, it definitely is. From an engineering standpoint, when you go to work at, say, 10, 11 in the morning and are not getting home till 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, those can be some long days, continuously no days off. The burnout was real. But the market had changed as well, right? So MP3s came out kind of in the mid-90s, between 95 and digital audio. That's when the whole digital revolution in audio took place.
So let's talk about the security services that's offered by TPX. They're saying the word security is about as nebulous as saying we offer cloud services. What does that really mean? There's a lot of different flavors and types of security. So why don't you talk briefly about the types of security services that we offer and the type of pain that we take away from customers?
Yeah, well, talking about the pain point first, the studies show that the problems that companies have is problems with time, resources, skill set, training. These are all the things. Employment in the IT world is very low. It's almost non-existent, or it used to be until the pandemic, and I'm not sure what they are right now, but and so it's hard to find good people and then to keep them, right? Because you have to constantly train people to keep up on the newest technologies. And when you do that, then they become valuable to somebody else, and then they leave your company to go somewhere else. So first of all, finding somebody and then keeping them has been a challenge for businesses, right? And so that's where definitely TPX tries to come and help. We provide that expertise. You don't have to worry about maintaining them. And the other thing that we do is we do it 24/7, right? So for a small business, even mid-sized business, to have a staff 24/7 can be very challenging for them and very cost prohibitive. So we like to talk about bringing enterprise protection and services, whether or not it's security or even just networking services, at a price point that SMBs can afford. And we can help enterprises too as well. So, what are the types of services that we do? Well, I handle our MSX firewall product, our MSX networks, and the firewall is with our Fortinet offering. And on the other side, on the network side, we also offer Meraki, SD-WAN, and firewall as well. So there's sort of two network-based appliances that sit on the network, perimeter-type defenses. Other things that we do that aren't necessarily my products, but we do an endpoint product where we'll keep your systems patched, put a next-generation antivirus on there. We offer Office 365, which has security measures that we like to talk about in there. Most people just think of it as email and maybe some applications there, but there's a lot of security that you can build into that platform as well that we like to talk about. We have an SD-WAN offering, which you could definitely talk about security there because you're creating private encrypted tunnels between sites. And so that's important. Data centers that I handle as well. We like to talk about how we layer security on all types of platforms. We have a managed Wi-Fi solution where we can layer on security on top of that, DNS protection, all these type of things. Because security, when it comes down to it, you have to do a layered approach. Just checking the box saying I have a firewall means nothing. Okay, you can put a firewall in there. Not to mention if it's not properly configured, it's kind of worthless, really. It was the Capital One breach, where the FBI came in, looked at what happened, and after the fact determined that the reason for the breach was not that they didn't have security measures in place, was guess what? Do you know the story? Can you answer the question?
No.
Okay, so the FBI came back and said that because the firewall was improperly configured, that's how the breach happened. It's not that they didn't have the technology in place, it wasn't properly configured. And that's definitely something that TPX wants to talk about. We have the expertise, certified engineers, certified 40-minute engineers that know firewalls, they do it all day long. And so they look for these problems that, sometimes it's Joe from accounting or Joe, the nephew of the owner or something comes in and sets this stuff up. And while it may work from a network perspective, it may not actually be protecting the network because it's not set up properly. So proper configuration is a key. That's definitely some of the value that we bring to our managed firewall and managed networking products.
Yeah, that's a really good answer and very elaborate answer. I mean, security isn't something to skimp on or to give it to your nephew or the CEO's brother or whatever. Just have it. The office manager will take care of it. I mean, it's far too costly, and we've all read security breaches. I don't know what the percentage of companies that actually can weather that type of storm, but it's very low. Depending on industry. So that's cool. Well, thanks for that information. We always close the Top Gun show with something kind of personal or interesting. We started the beginning of the show about your background and music production, but any other stories that you want to share?
Oh, here's a good story. Okay, I got a good one now. So this was back when his name was still Puff Daddy, and he was dating Jennifer Lopez. So do you remember that time?
Yep.
So I remember I got to work with Puff Daddy, as he was called at the time, and it was just a mixing situation. So I got there, he wasn't there yet, so I did the mix, got it to a point where it was kind of ready for some initial feedback from him, right? And he came in, we spent like 30 minutes together, to an hour, working on stuff, changed this, changed that. He said, I'll be back later. Well, it turned out, I think it was the MTV Awards were that night. Well, guess what? Later on, he comes back, and so I'm sitting around doing nothing for about 5 or 6 hours. Must have been about midnight, where he comes back, and guess who's behind him? Well, it's Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer Lopez was not happy to be there. And I don't know if it was the fact that she didn't want to be there, or she was just not happy with him. It was hard to tell, but I think it was the following week where it came out in the news that the two had split. So it was like, what I sensed at the time ultimately was like, that wasn't just reading something into that. There was definitely some tension there. And that, probably that was basically at the end there. So that was a fun story.
So you knew it before TMZ did then, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't think TMZ wasn't even around back then.
Yeah. Well, hey, Erik, thanks a lot for being on the Top Gun show today. Very fascinating. I don't know what happened to the Dos Equis guy, but I'm going to say you might be the most interesting man in the world.
No, I don't know about that. But our products are definitely interesting, and that's definitely reach out to a TPX representative. I got to put it in a sales pitch here, of course, to talk about what we can do to help you. I'm always very passionate when talking about our services and security. Security is kind of fun to talk about, but I really don't like to talk tech as much as I like to talk about how these products can help our customers. So that's really what is valuable to me, and what's important to me is helping customers. I know it's kind of cliche, but for me, I truly believe it.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's great. Well, thanks for being on the show, and thanks for watching, everybody.
Hey, thank you.